Hello, everyone. My name is David McLeod. I am your life mastery coach. I'd like to welcome you to Magnificence in Motion. This is my monthly series designed, well, actually, I do this twice a month. What am I saying? It's a semi-monthly series in which I'm basically trying to help people. Well, let me explain it this way. One thing that I have learned for myself is that there's nothing that's more important than knowing the truth of who you really are. This is a challenge for a lot of people. And over the years, as I've dived deeper and deeper and done more and more meditation and learned more and more about myself, I've come to the realization that I think that we are all one, not just in an esoteric sense, but in a very real and even physical sense. And consequently, I have come to the belief that we're all just magnificent, divine, unlimited spiritual beings of light and love who happen to be sharing human experience here on the planet. And of course, part of our experience is to forget the truth of who we really are. And so what I have come to realize is I call that divine, magnificent, unlimited, sovereign, spiritual being of light and love, I call that magnificence, because I'm always looking for ways to simplify things. And so that's where the title of this program came from. So the idea is Magnificence in Motion is all about all of us, I hope, learning more and more about the truth of who we really are, embracing it, experiencing it, expressing it, and just growing into the fullness of that as part of our process. So today's episode, this is episode number 4 in this series, and I'm calling this one The Tree of Life Mastery. Now, obviously, that's a little bit of a play on words. You've probably heard the term the Tree of Life. I mean, pretty much everybody has heard it. It's certainly a term that is available and present in the. I'm sorry, I just realized I had my mic way over to the side, so I hope I'm not too loud now. Anyway. The tree of life is a kind of an esoteric symbol, and it's certainly present in the Bible. In fact, wasn't it Adam and Eve who had to make the choice between eating of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil or eating from the tree of life? And they chose the knowledge of good and evil, which of course has led to all kinds of things. Well, I think that these two trees are metaphors for. Well, I think the tree of the knowledge of good and evil is a metaphor for our physical nature, and the tree of knowledge is a metaphor for our spiritual nature. And many of us, I mean, we all understand this concept of rationality, science, left brain thinking, logical thinking, all that kind of stuff. And many of us, I believe, and probably all of us on some level, are seeking to find our way back to our true spiritual nature. So I like the image of the tree of life, and I just had this epiphany. I mean, in 2019, I wrote this book. It's called A Life to Die For, Master 10 Key Skills to Transform Your Life into a Priceless Treasure. Now it's actually a really good book. I mean, I'm saying that myself, so I mean, why wouldn't I say that? I mean, it's my book. But I got so much out of writing this because the process of writing helped me to understand and to be able to articulate what it was I wanted to teach the world. Now, you might ask, well, what right do you have to teach the world anything? And I think that's a really good question. What right do I have to teach the world anything? I'm just an ordinary human being like everybody else on the planet. But the thing is, what I have learned is that we all go through experiences. We all go through different journeys in life, and every one of us learns from those experiences and from those journeys. And we can share what we learn with the people who are behind us or following. I'm reminded of that story. I shared that story actually in this book about when I was first few days in kindergarten. I really noticed I was standing out there in the recess yard playing with the other kindergartners, and one day I just happened to look across the yard and I saw those first graders, and I thought, wow, look how amazing and enlightened and advanced they are. Well, I don't think I used the word enlightened, but I'm thinking, look how far advanced they are. Look how big they are. Look how amazing they are. And I, naturally in my mind, I'm thinking, one day I'm going to be a first grader. Isn't that going to be amazing? Well, of course, certainly the next year, that's where I was. I was a first grader. And I was out in the play yard again. And this time I was looking across and I was seeing the second graders. And I'm thinking, oh, wow, look how amazing and advanced and wonderful they are. Look at that. And I was thinking one day I'm going to be a second grader. But that same day, I also happened to take a look back the other way, and I saw all the kindergartners, and I saw one kid in particular. He was looking a little dejected, and I just said, "Hey, dude, don't worry about it, man. You're going to be okay. One of these days, you're going to be a first grader." And I don't even know if that's what he was thinking, but I just said that. But I had that epiphany that day that no matter where we are on the journey, there are people who are apparently ahead of us. And there are people who are apparently behind us. Of course, I say apparently because that may not be true at all. It could be that the people behind us are actually further advanced. I mean, I don't know. I'm just saying it's a metaphor. It's a metaphor. And so what I realized is that no matter where you are in your life, there's always going to be some people who can benefit from what you've already learned. And so each of us, we're kind of working our way together towards whatever it is we think we're looking for. It's a group effort. Now, I mentioned at the beginning, I think, first of all, I truly believe that we are all one, right? And let me explain why I think that's the case. I think quantum physics is demonstrating it pretty clearly these days, that pretty much everything is all made up of the same stuff. It's all energy at the lowest possible level. And so somehow this energy comes together and it coheres in certain patterns and organizations and forms and interacts. So you get these bigger blobs of energy. And, I don't want to get too deep into the whole quantum physics thing, but because of the fact that ultimately everything is all made up of the same stuff, energy, it means that we are all connected, even if we feel like we're separate and distinct and unique from everything and everyone else. Now, what does that mean? If we really are all one, what does that mean? Well, the concept of you and I and he and she and they and all the rest of it kind of goes out the window. If we're all one, then there's only one entity, and it is I. That's it. That's it. And it's a mind-boggling thought, and something that I've been meditating on for years now. And it just really, really gets me excited, because I know that even though I have this experience of being separate, I mean, I have a dog. My dog and I walk together, but we're separate. And yet we are one, And even inanimate objects that are made by men, created by men, are also made of that same stuff. It's really fascinating and amazing if you think about it. So why is life mastery important then? I mean, if we're all one, then we're all basically following the same journey, whatever that journey is, and maybe we all can't see it because we haven't learned to expand our minds quite big enough to be able to see the whole picture. But what I have learned in my quest to find out the truth of who I really am, I came up with a paradigm. I call it the life mastery paradigm. And this, I was talking about my book at the beginning, in 2019 when I published it. It took me 2 years to write this book. And the writing part of it was me trying to say, all right, how can I simplify what I've learned? Because I had so much junk coming into my head and just awareness is all over the place. I said, how can I simplify this so that it makes sense? And then what happened was I came up with this idea of a life mastery paradigm. Now you're going to say, well, what the hell is that? Well, I'm going to explain that to you in a minute. But in fact, the way I'm going to do this, I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to, how do I do that? Why is that not working? I'm going to try that again. Thank you. There we go. Now we've got it. Let us go to I was going to share my screen, wasn't I? So here's my image that I'd like to share with you. And you can maximize that on your screen so you can see it. This image it represents my life mastery paradigm. And because it's arranged in a circular arrangement, a cyclical arrangement, traveling around from 12 o'clock all the way around and back up to 12 again, originally I called it the flower of life mastery. And I'll explain what each of these petals are around the outside of this flower as we go. But what I realized is these, to me, are the 10 principal keys that have helped me to really recognize, embrace, experience, and express the truth of who I really am. So I'm going to go through these one at a time so you can understand what they are. All right, so before I do that, let me just get over here. Close that share. Where is it? Where's the share? There we go. I'm back again. So we have these. The original plan was, I have it on the back of my book here too. You can see it there. The idea is I wanted to try and figure out, is there a pathway to finding the truth of who I really am? That's what I was trying to figure out. And in the course of my own studies and my background, I realized that there were 10 things that I was doing on a regular basis, actually 11, but the 11th is actually the foundation, the if you like, the base camp of the whole thing. So I'm going to quickly share up the screen again, and let me get this loaded. There we go. So the very first one, and this was in the center of that flower. This looks like a guy sitting in front of a tent. It's there to represent base camp, but he's also in a kind of a meditative position because it's all about awareness. Awareness is the first step in any process that you would like to do for yourself. And when I talk about awareness, I'm not talking about, just, what's going on in my surroundings. I'm talking about everything. So this brings into view 4 primary archetypes that I work with. The first of these is called the harmonizer. That is the heart element of your holistic being. Heart, connection, reaching out and having relationships, all that kind of stuff. So that's your heart. That's the harmonizer. Second archetype is the guardian. The guardian is the one who protects you and keeps you safe and sets boundaries and makes sure that everything is safe for you, right? That's the guardian, and it's really related to the body. So you got the heart, the body. Then the next part is the mind. Well, what the mind is, that's the philosopher, right? Thinking processes, logical processes, even magical processes, alchemy, that sort of thing. So the philosopher then is the 4th archetype. And finally, we have the oracle, or the sovereign, the king, the queen, the person who maintains your vision for your entire life, the spiritual essence, and that is the soul. So heart, body, mind, and soul, harmonizer, guardian, philosopher, oracle. Those 4 energetic archetypes are present in every one of these themes that I'm going to be talking about. So from the perspective of awareness, you want to bring in awareness of what your heart is saying, of what your body is saying, what your mind is saying, and what your soul is saying. And I use the word saying as just a way of describing how they are expressing to you, okay? So as you raise your awareness, you kind of tap into all of those essences. And of course, the heart, its way of communicating is through emotion, right? Through the emotional energy that is passed to you. The body communicates to you through its power of sensation. You can feel cold, you can feel hot, you can feel tight, you can feel relaxed. All those kinds of words that associate with the body sensation. And then you have the mind, which communicates through thought, right? It's a thought machine. Well, I don't know that it's necessarily a machine. There's mixed ideas about that. Does the mind create the thoughts, or do the thoughts merely become present in the mind? Are they created from somewhere else? That's hard to say. Sometimes when I'm meditating, it seems that thoughts just show up from random locations. I don't know that I am creating the thoughts. Maybe I am. Well, I guess in one sense I am, because I am part of all that is, right? And then finally we have the soul, the apex of our pyramid of four components, right? And that soul it communicates to us through intuition and through other senses that aren't necessarily physical. You know, you don't have the what is it? I can't even think of the senses now. Touch, taste, sight, hearing, and smell, right? Anyway, awareness then is all about bringing all of these elements into your presence and just knowing what's going on. As you become more aware, the next thing that happens is you're going to start making up stories about this. So the next aspect of the process is accepting. Now, a lot of us, you know, the way I draw this picture is it's real simple. Imagine if you're just looking at some clouds. You look at the clouds and you're just enjoying seeing these puffy white shapes in the sky. And then all of a sudden you start thinking, oh, that looks like a face. I can see a face up there. Or maybe you say, wow, that's a flower. Or who knows, you might see all kinds of other shapes. The point is, your mind starts to interpret the data that it's seeing in front of it, and it starts making up a story. Well, acceptance is really all about trying to eliminate that story, eliminate the interpretation, eliminate the judgments, eliminate the narrative and the drama that you're building up around whatever is happening, and simply accepting what it is for what it is. There's a great quote that I remember from a guy named Frederick Pearls, I think it is. I hope I'm getting his name right. Nothing changes until it becomes what it is. I remember the first time I heard that, I thought, what? Nothing changes until it becomes what it is. How can it become what it already is? I mean, it doesn't make any sense. But when I meditated on that, I realized, oh, I see what he's saying. What it is different from what I think it is, what I pretend it is, but based on the stories I make up about it. So if I can eliminate the stories, then I can get down to what it is. Now I might have some power to change it if I need to. That's the whole point of acceptance. So here we are. We've gone through the awareness part. We're continually trying to maintain awareness. We are trying to accept without any agenda exactly what is present in our life. And then we're moving into the next phase, which is identity. Now you might think, well, how can I be talking about identity? This whole thing is all about knowing the truth of who I am. Exactly. But I have to start with some understanding of who I am. And I can't really do that until I'm aware and I accept what is. Now I can start to begin looking at myself. Who am I? What am I? What are the things that make me? You know, all these questions that we all have, I'm sure. And the answers often we come up with are, most of the time anyway, when I'm working with people, who are you? Well, I'm Denise. Who are you? Thank you for that. Who are you? Well, I'm a man, I'm a woman, I'm whatever. I'm a boy, I'm a girl. Thank you. Who are you? I'm a teacher. I'm a pilot. You see what's happening? As I ask you, who are you? You start to go through the list of all these things that you have taken on, the roles you have played. You might even say, I am a cancer survivor. You might say, I'm an alcoholic. You might say a variety of other things, all beginning with that phrase, I am, because you have identified with a condition or a state or a role or a story about yourself. But the truth is, you're none of those things. You are merely either the creator and or the experiencer of those things, but you are not those things themselves. And this was an awareness that took me a while to really understand. Once I started to figure out, I thought, well, if that's true, then who am I really? And that's where the whole journey started to begin. My most profound journey of all has always been the one that's gone from here down into here and even deeper, learning more and more, moment by moment, the truth of who I am. All right. Once I get a sense of who I am, I don't have to know all of it just yet. The next thing that I can do is I can start looking at my choices. And let me just find there we go. I'm going to click that. There we go. Oh, I'm sorry. This is the symbol for identity. I meant to bring that up. I apologize. But that's the symbol for identity. Next, we have choice. Now, choice is an amazing thing. Now, why does it come after identity and not before and not somewhere else in this list? Well, what I have learned is that every choice I make is actually a reflection or a projection, if you like, of who I am choosing to be, which I had to do before I got to making the choice. You see? So I had to have some sense of who I am before making the choice. This is all twisted and it's kind of convoluted, but it really makes sense when you meditate on it. So choices. Well, we make choices all the time, right? Every single instant we're making a choice. And every one of those choices becomes a reflection of who I'm choosing to be in that moment. So if I make a choice that I don't like, I can't really change it. I can't undo the choice. You cannot unchoose. However, if you don't like the result of the choice that you've made, you can choose something new in the next moment that maybe more closely reflects who you would like to be, how you would like to be perceived. So choice is then a process of looking at options, making a selection with the knowledge that you have available at that time, and living with the outcome. And this is the big part about choice that people often forget, is every choice creates an outcome. Now, the question is, who created the outcome? Well, guess what? You did. You created the outcome because you made the choice. So therefore, you are responsible for that outcome, whether you knew it was going to happen or not. Whether it was conscious or unconscious, it doesn't matter. You're responsible for that choice. And this is one of the key points about choice, is learning to take responsibility. It's a vital aspect. So now it comes back to the question of, well, who am I? And how do I want people to see me? And am I willing to take responsibility for all my choices? It's a big ask, especially when you think that every moment has another choice or another option in it. And I get to make another choice. So there's an infinite number of choices available to all of us through our lifetimes. And every single one of them creates an outcome. All right. So what comes after choice? Well, this is where it gets interesting, because if I make choices that I don't like, it's easy for me to start getting down on myself, right? It's easy for me to start judging myself as being bad or whatever. So the next element is compassion. I have to learn to have compassion, primarily for myself, but for others as well. And what I have found interesting personally, it was easier for me to have compassion for other people in my life than it was to have compassion for myself. And I had to have that visceral experience of compassion before I was able to start directing it at me. It's a practice. Compassion is an ongoing practice. Excuse me, I need to, I gotta. Sorry about that. I have a bit of a frog in my throat. So compassion. Well, what is compassion? think everybody knows it when they experience it. I think of it as walking a mile in someone else's shoes. It's kind of, we have these notions of pity and sympathy and those sorts of things. And we all know what that means. But most of us realize that sympathy and pity aren't really all that great. They don't really help much. Then another thing we have is we have empathy. Well, the empathy is different from sympathy in that it's a kind of a form of projection where I see you perhaps going through an experience and I have maybe a visceral response to that, thinking, especially if I've had the same experience myself, I know the kind of pain you might be going through. But even if I haven't had that visceral experience, even if I hadn't had the same experience as you have, I can still imagine in my mind the kind of pain you might be experiencing. So what I'm doing in that case is I'm projecting my idea of the suffering onto you. And now I want to do something to try and relieve that suffering, to eliminate the suffering, to reduce it, whatever. That's the difference between that is compassion. When I have that empathy and simultaneously have a desire to reduce the suffering, that's the difference between empathy and compassion. So to develop a practice of compassion, it really is about becoming aware, again, always awareness, right? What is the suffering? What do I want to do to try and relieve it? Okay, so what's next then? Well, the next one is forgiveness. And you might say, well, why is forgiveness happening after compassion? Well, I don't think it really is. They're kind of happening simultaneously. One thing I have noticed for myself is I find it easier to have compassion for myself once I have forgiven myself. And forgiveness is a big challenge unto itself because people often think, well, if I forgive someone for something, it means that I'm letting them off the hook. It means that I'm saying that what they did was okay. No, that's not what forgiveness is at all. The beauty about forgiveness is it means releasing within yourself any desire you have for revenge or justice or getting even or any of that stuff, because that is what really holds you back. The other person may or may not have done something really bad to you and might deserve your anger, your vitriol, whatever. But the fact is, your anger and vitriol is not going to heal anything. It's going to damage things further. But the other side of it is the other person may not even know that you have been injured in some way. It's quite possible that someone does something unconsciously and hurts your feelings, whatever, without really meaning to do so. So forgiveness is an opportunity for me. When I forgive, it's an opportunity for me to just simply say, that's it. I'm releasing this to the universe. I'm not going to wait for this person to get his or her just desserts. I'm not waiting for that, because that is simply trapping me in this place. I'm giving away my power to that other person. So forgiveness is about releasing all that. And the other person doesn't even have to know I've done it. Okay? It's forgiveness is always for me, for the person doing the forgiving, not the other way around. So please don't get confused about that. But now, as forgiveness happens, compassion starts to build and more forgiveness comes. It's a cycle unto itself. This is a beautiful compassion forgiveness cycle that happens on its own. But I've put them in this order because I have found personally that it's easier for me to forgive once I've achieved a level of compassion. That's why I have put them in this order. Now, what happens after you got to forgiveness? Well, all of these are just arbitrarily placed in the order that I found worked for me. But coming up after forgiveness is now I can start looking at my purpose. Why am I here? What am I here to do? And when I talk about a purpose, I'm not talking about, a couple of goals like I want to lose 30 pounds or something like that. No, I'm talking about a grand purpose, a purpose for my entire life. Something that is so big and so amazing that I'll probably never complete it by the time I'm ready to slip this mortal coil, as they say, or I don't even know who said that. But anyway, purpose is about something that is going to guide me in pretty much every action I choose going forward. Now, I've spent a lot of time helping people to find their purpose. And a purpose really boils down to two elements. First element is a vision. What is my vision for an ideal world? What do I see? What kind of a world would I want to live in? What I want my family to live in? What words would I have to describe that world? Then the second part of the purpose statement is my actions. What is it that I do to help bring that vision into reality? What is it that I do on a day-to-day basis? Now, your vision can be huge. I mean, I'll give you an example. I worked on my own mission statement, purpose statement for a couple of years before I narrowed it down. I whittled it down bit by bit by bit until I got to an 11-word statement that guides me everywhere. Now, it's real simple. It goes like this. I create universal harmony by modeling, fostering, and facilitating authentic magnificence. That's it. Now, you might look at that and you might say, well, that's pretty vague. It's not really very specific. And that is absolutely correct. It's not meant to be specific. It's meant to give me a reminder of what my vision is for a world, a universal harmony. That's a pretty big deal, right? It also gives me a way to articulate what I do, the kinds of things I do on a daily basis to help bring that world into reality. And that is, I create this world, right? I create universal harmony by modeling, fostering, and facilitating authentic magnificence. Do I always model authentic magnificence? Of course not. I'm a human being. I still have an ego mind. I still have shadows. I still have challenges. Do I foster it? Absolutely. I really do encourage it in a lot of people all the time, as much as I can. Do I facilitate it? Right, whenever I have the chance to do so. So you see that this is a big picture purpose that helps to guide me. So now, on a day-to-day basis, when I'm about to make a decision, I look at this decision and I say, how does this align with my purpose? Does it align? Is there a way that I can make it align? You see? So the purpose then becomes the guiding principle for my life. And so once you have a purpose in place, the next thing that you can start looking at is integrity. Now, you notice that these two images have a similar shape. They're both kind of circular. One is a compass, and the other one is just a cyclical arrangement of integrity. And these are four components again, because they are the heart, body, mind, and soul, the harmonizer, the guardian, the philosopher, and the oracle working together, bringing everything into alignment. So integrity is the process by which I keep myself in alignment with my purpose, and I look at how am I doing, right? So think about it this way. I believe that integrity is a state of being in which all your thoughts, words, actions, and emotions are in alignment. Thoughts, words, actions, and emotions. Remember, I talked about heart, body, mind, and soul, right? That's the same thing. Thoughts, words, actions, and emotions, all brought together in alignment. But there's this fifth thing here. And what is that? That is the central purpose. If all of these things are in alignment with your purpose, you are living in integrity. If any one of them is out of alignment, now you can say, something's not quite right here. And I always talk about integrity this way. And the reason I bring the heart, all four elements together is because most of us just talk about integrity as my word is my bond, right? I do what I say I'm going to do, and I don't do what I say I'm not going to do, whatever. But it's more than that. You could be fully in integrity externally. That is, other people may believe you're fully in integrity because you're honoring your word and you're doing what you said you did. But you could be out of integrity with yourself because your thoughts and your feelings are not in alignment with those actions. You see? And this is what I spent a large part of my life, the first 40 years of my life, being out of integrity with myself because I was doing what I thought everybody else wanted me to do, right? I was living according to someone else's blueprint for my life. And that's completely out of integrity as far as I'm concerned. But I didn't realize it. I thought I was doing the right thing because that's what society kind of expected of me. So integrity is something I can only be in or out of integrity with respect to me, to my true nature, myself. All right? But the purpose and the alignment of thoughts, words, actions, and emotions, those help me to detect when I'm in or out of integrity. The other thing about integrity is that when I am out of integrity, there are powerful tools I can use to help me get back. And one of the most powerful that I know of is called self-accountability, where I look at my own what agreements I believe I have made, how I'm in or out of integrity with those agreements, what I've done instead of abiding by those agreements, and maybe looking at some shadow. And I'm going to get to shadow here in a second. But looking at some shadow that may have pulled me away from being in integrity. That's what this is about. Now, the next item, I just mentioned this, is shadow. And this is the beauty about integrity. Integrity is the tool that helps me to see my shadow more clearly. Anytime I'm out of integrity, I'm certain that there's almost always some kind of shadow at play that pulled me out of alignment. And so if I can identify, if I can recognize, heal, and integrate that shadow back into myself, then I can further advance my understanding, my truth of who I really am. That's powerful, powerful stuff. And shadow work is a whole study of work unto itself. I mean, there are people who focus solely on shadow. The next element in my cycle is relationship. Now you might ask yourself, relationship? Well, we're always in relationship. Why isn't that near the beginning? Well, I'm not talking about just ordinary relationship. I'm talking about conscious, intentional relationship. Once I begin to understand my shadow and I start to heal it and bring it into reality, and I start bringing forth the gifts from within my shadow, I can start showing up in relationship more authentically. It's much easier to do that. Of course, I'm going to be in relationships all my life. I mean, all relationships happen the moment we're born, right? They happen and they continue unless you happen to live as a hermit in the woods. You're having a relation with somebody or something, for sure. So I have a whole conversation I teach about relationship. Relationship is sacred ground. It's the place where I really get to experience myself fully. That's the beauty of relationship. So that relationship, actually, well, there's one more key that I talked about in my original program, and that is flow. And flow is a state that I call presence in action. Basically, it means I am able to stay present and focused at the same time while I am doing stuff. And doing stuff could include doing nothing, And when I'm sitting meditating, I'm actually doing something, right? I'm not actually dead. There's no such thing as 100% stillness. So flow is what happens. I mean, the universe is constantly moving and we have the opportunity to flow with it or against it. And if we allow ourselves to just go with the flow, life gets so much easier. It's graceful, it's peaceful, it's easy. Well, maybe not easy, but certainly easier. And so flow becomes an important aspect of it. You'll notice now we've gone through awareness plus the 10 keys that surrounded the outside of that. Okay, I'm going to just say them here in a second. Let me do this. There, I'm going to get myself so you can see me rather than the image. So we have awareness at the center, right? We have awareness at the center, and at the 12 o'clock position, we have acceptance. And then going clockwise around the circle, we have identity, choice, compassion, forgiveness, purpose, integrity, shadow, relationship, and flow. 10 keys around the outside of that base camp. Now, what I have learned as I have done more and more work on those 10 keys is what starts to emerge after that is this amazing thing called gratitude. You know, we've been told to adopt an attitude of gratitude. And I think on some level that is really good. But I found it really hard to fake it till I make it. But I noticed that as I did all these things and I worked on these, gratitude started showing up. And I began to realize that gratitude is all around me. It's like a field, like a spherical field that's constantly surrounding me. And it feels absolutely amazing. So here's the little symbol for that. It just basically shows a hand holding a heart. It's meant to be a symbol of, you know, gratitude, being grateful. And when I talk about gratitude, I'm talking about recognizing that everything in my life has served a powerful purpose to get me where I am today. It's possible I might have gotten here by some other route, but one thing I do know is all the things that have happened to me so far got me here. That much I do know. So finding a way to be grateful for everything in my life, this has been just an amazing gift. And gratitude is just one of the most powerful forces. You know, I understand now why they try to teach us develop an attitude of gratitude. It makes perfect sense. But I found, like I said, I found it difficult to just pretend to be grateful. You know, fake it till I make it sort of thing. Now, gratitude just surrounds me and it fills my life. So what happens after gratitude? Well, now we've completed the cycle, and I've now added 2 more items that you didn't hear about before, right? Gratitude and this other one, transcendence. Transcendence is what happens as you become more and more aware of who you really are, as you become more willing to embrace, express, experience, and just be the fullness of who you are, you just simply begin to start evolving. And it's an absolutely amazing process. So you kind of transcend your existing levels, if you like, and move to the next level of your own evolution, whatever that might be. It's powerful. And I mean, the word transcendence kind of is a challenging word for me anyway. I debated about using harmony in there instead, but I have the harmonizer archetype, and I didn't want to mix metaphors here. So I use the word transcendence to imply an evolutionary phase, spiritual evolution. So now we have all of these elements, and they come together in a different kind of, if you like, a different kind of image. I'm going to bring that up here in just a second. So we have this. So I call this now the tree of life mastery. A tree, the flower has, I don't know, evolved, if you like. And I have these different themes positioned at effectively just random locations on the tree, because you don't have to visit them in any particular order. If you can learn to remember that awareness begins everything, then you can move from awareness to acceptance, or awareness to shadow, or awareness to gratitude, or awareness to transcendence. Just like that. It's your choice. So that really is, in a nutshell, or in a tree shell, whatever you want to call it, that is my tree of life mastery metaphor described for you. And I just want to share a little bit more about this image. So all of the themes are positioned here, but you also have your archetypes that are Oh, I'm sorry. My mouse is moving around and you're not seeing where I'm going. So let me try that again. So we have the themes positioned at different locations on the tree structure itself. But down at the bottom, we have the archetypes, right? The harmonizer, the guardian, the philosopher, and the oracle. And these four archetypes below basically guard the tree and keep it under control and provide us with our guidance throughout life. That's the whole plan in its entirety, really. So here's what's going to happen over the next, I don't know how long, how many more years. I'm going to be writing books. I've got a couple of books already underway that will take this whole Tree of Life Mastery idea and start to bring it into physical form. And I'm really looking forward to sharing more about this with people. It may seem like a fairly complex model, but when you understand it, it all just makes, well, I shouldn't say you will have the same understanding that I do. That wouldn't be accurate. It makes a whole lot of sense to me, and I believe that it can be very beneficial to other people. So as you're going to see over the next few years, I'm going to be offering different programs that will bring this more into your awareness, and hopefully you'll be able to benefit from it. And I just want to say, if you'd like to pick up a copy of this book, A Life to Die For, you can grab it on Amazon. It's available there, and I really love it. I think you will love it too. It's fairly long. It's like 300 pages, I think. How long is that? Oh, 260 pages. And it's just got so much good stuff in it. You will certainly learn a lot about all of the primary 10 keys, plus the two additional ones. They're not in there, of course, but you'll find out more about it. The other thing is, keep an eye open for my other books. One is going to be a journal on it's going to be called the Magnificence Journal. And that's coming out shortly. And then I've got another book with some aphorisms and affirmations that you'll be able to take advantage of that will also be organized according to this Tree of Life Mastery structure. So with all of that, I just want to say thank you so much for being here. Do you have any questions or comments that you'd like to share before I close us out? I see you wrote there, you've created mission statements for your business, but never for yourself or for your life purpose. Yeah, I think having a life purpose mission makes a whole lot of sense, and it really, really helps. And also, your mission for your business will start to make a whole lot more sense. You know, when you understand what you're here for, what you're here to do, that just really amplifies the power of your own business mission or business mission statement or whatever. So keep that in mind. Well, thank you for being here today. And I want to thank everyone who's watched. If you're watching the recording, thank you for doing that. I would just like to remind everybody about my life mastery mantra. This is something that I like to finish my programs on now. It's very, very simple. It's a 3-line thing that you can easily memorize and use for yourself. You know, complete a meditation or whatever you like to do. That's what I do anyway. So it goes like this. I gratefully forgive the imperfect being I have been in the past. I gratefully accept the magnificent being I am right now. I gratefully welcome the evolved being I am becoming in each new moment. So thank you, my friends, for being here. I really appreciate sharing this information with you, and I hope that you get some value out of it. Please remember that I have the recordings of this and every other episode on my website at magnifessence.com. Please check it out. It's a great website. It's obviously Life Mastery School. Got all kinds of courses and offerings there. So go check it out, magnifessence.com. Thank you again for being here. I'll see you next time on Magnificence in Motion. Bye-bye for now.